Well, good morning, Val, and welcome to the Break Even podcast. Thank you for coming along today to tell your story. We've actually had your son Dan as a guest on our podcast, so today we want to hear how this problem has really affected you. And before you start, I've got so much empathy for this because I walked the same shoes as Dan many years ago, and I know the effect it had on my immediate family. So let's start with, how did you find out about Dan's gambling? How did that come about?
I think from early teens, he was gambling. So I knew he was gambling, but I never really thought of it as a serious issue. Because he'd go out with his friends and they probably do fruit machine, things like that. I never really... It became more of a problem when he was like owing money to people, things like that. And we, at the time, we sort of...
And how did you find out about that he was owing money? Because it went from obviously something that people do.
People had his friends knock at the door and things like that.
Right.
And we sort of, for want of a better way, we sort of bailed him out then.
Right.
And
so when you say bailed him out, you were sort of paying off some debts for him?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. And he then said, he was going to get help, which he did. He went to what I assume was Gamblers Anonymous. Yeah. And he went for a while, and I naively, when he said to me, I've done it, that's it, I'm fine. I don't need to...
Why would you think any different?
I hadn't really had experience of anything like this before in the terms of the level that was. Yeah. So he said, no, I've done it. And I thought, well, that's it now, it's all done, it's finished, he's fine.
So you felt like the problem
I thought it'd gone.
Been eradicated?
I thought he was, and he was getting on with his life, and he, everyone has their ups and downs, but I never attributed to him gambling again. Yeah.
So when you thought he'd stopped gambling, obviously he hadn't sorted the problem out.
Probably not. Yeah. No, he probably hadn't. And but I feel there was a space in his life that he was. I don't think he was gambling. He was so happy and and I think there was a time where he was free of gambling. Because now when I look back, I can see the difference in his persona and his behaviour, really. Yeah. And when it actually came to light, it was like it was like a juggernaut when it happened.
Yeah. So how did that make you feel in the wider family?
Well, when it happened, we had no idea when it came to a head. It was huge. Yeah. And I had absolutely no idea. He'd been not very well, and he'd had a major operation in that year. Yeah. And I thought his low feeling and that, and his different behaviour was to do with how he was, his health problems then. Yeah. That was all sorted out. But obviously I think it must have been to do with
So when it
gambling.
hit like a ton of bricks, and you say like a juggernaut, obviously that must have been very hard for you and the wider family. Did you want to support him then? Were you angry? What was your initial reaction, if you can remember?
Well, I can remember the actual time, the actual day. We just finished watching Poldark on telly.
Right, I remember.
And
that.
I checked my phone.
Yeah.
There was an email from him.
Yeah. Take your time, because it's obviously very difficult to talk about.
It's the worst email you could ever hope to receive. And both my husband and I just virtually collapsed because it said in the email that he was going to take his own life. He said that he was so sorry for everything he'd done and everything. And we just got in the car and drove up instantly up to where he was. And by the time we got there, he'd been taken by the police. He'd been sectioned.
Right.
I honestly think if he hadn't been sectioned that night, that he wouldn't be here. Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the worst days of my life.
Obviously, that email really affected you, your husband, the family.
Yeah.
And you truly believe that had he not been sectioned...
I do believe that, yeah. Because when it happened, my other son and his partner, who were absolutely brilliant support to us, they'd just flown back from New Zealand and they were jet lagged, but they came straight away. And they visited him in the unit, so did we. I've never been anywhere like that where you've got to go in and be like searched and sign in and go past like security to get into the hospital. This sort of I don't know whether it's called a hospital or what it is, but where they put people that are in, and there's so many like people in a really bad way in there, you know. And it's the first time I'd seen like cabinets and places where where all the doors were curved, and when we asked the nurse,
sure people are not going to do anything to themselves. So the enormity, Val, must have really hit you like a ton of bricks.
And I think for the first part of him being in there, because of the extent of everything, I think he was in no fit state to actually deal with anything. So I'm so glad they did keep him in there. If they hadn't, I don't think, as I said to you, it would be different. But the whole thing was just, it was an absolute nightmare, really. It was awful. And
do you remember how long he was actually in there for?
He was in there from probably about 2 months.
Wow. And during this time, you and the family
we were there,
backwards and
we
forwards?
were, and so was my son.
How did that actually make you feel, going in and out of a place like that?
Well, I think at the time we were dealing with the other side of it as well, which was obviously, as you see, like the police were involved too. We were dealing with that.
And the financial aspects of it.
And also
the practicalities,
Absolutely, because we had to get a solicitor, because there was people, there were people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very frightening, to be honest. It was really frightening. I was fearful for us. I was fearful for him. I was worried sick about him. I was...
But also worried about yourselves and all these things going on that you were unaware of.
Absolutely. It was like we were gradually finding... I mean, that was the first time, I would say, when we went in the following day, that everything came out. He was totally honest about absolutely everything. And then, he was in there for some time. So
when he was in there, he must have had so many different emotions, being scared, as you say, angry, supportive. Yeah. You must have been a near wreck yourself, I could imagine.
I think I look back and I think, how did we get through that? But we did get through that. I think we've got a really strong family unit.
Yeah, sounds like you're really lucky that you had that.
I think we have, and I'm lucky. I had strong family unit with my siblings as well, and they were really supportive too. And we had people.
So by you guys remaining strong, that really helped down in the long run, didn't it?
I hope so. Yeah, I think it did. Yeah. And I think the support we got with my siblings, they didn't judge. They just said, "Look, we're there. What do you need?" It was that, Yeah. And they were great. That did help us, definitely. So we were lucky we did have that support.
I mean, thanks for sharing that. Obviously, it was still very raw and very powerful, listening to that. So as things sort of progressed and you're supporting him, what did that start looking like? Because, as you say, you had so many roles to play. You're looking after Dan, looking after yourself, you've got a strong family, as you say, but you had to deal with the practicalities, didn't you?
Yeah.
The police, the convictions.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we had that was quite stressful. There's also his children too. So his partner was good in the respect she wanted the children to still... I mean, she was devastated, you can imagine. She wanted the children to
I imagine it was a shock to everybody, the enormity.
Absolutely. We just couldn't believe it. Yeah, the whole practicality of everything, as I say, we had to... financially, we had to come up with... He had to be made bankrupt. That cost money. Yeah. We had to get a solicitor. That cost money. Yeah. And that was expensive for what you need, to deal with.
How was it emotionally on you and the rest of the family?
Probably, I think it affected all of us. It affected us all, but we all tried to sort of make sure everybody else was all right, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think when we're in situations like that, we're better at looking after other people than looking after ourselves. Yeah,
like my younger son, he just cooked for us all the time. He made sure there was food there. Yeah. He's a chef, like my husband.
Right.
And he just said, look, come on, Mum, you've got to have something to eat. He did all that.
Good.
So
you had support from the family, you were supporting each other. But I suppose in those days you didn't realise it was outside help and support.
Not really.
That could help the family, help you, etc.
Not really. I did, because he was he'd been in contact or going to Gamblers Anonymous before in Guildford. There was a guy there who I phoned, and he was brilliant. He was obviously a gambler himself, and I spoke to him and I said, you know, what do I need? He just sort of said, you've just got to, you know, try not to look too far. Just try and deal with what you can. Yeah. Find out as much as you can, and if you need help, you know, come to us. We're here. And he also gave me details of the family, you know, the associated help, which we did do. Myself, his dad, my younger son, and his partner. She was brilliant too. We all went up to London to the family. You know, at the time, I don't know if it helped me, because it actually made me feel, because we were listening to all other stories that were, I don't think that did help at the time, because we did it so quickly after everything happened.
And sometimes being amongst and hearing other people's woes, you're really more concerned, as anyone would be in that situation, about your own, which, thank God, things have changed in the current climate, that there is support available now for families and what we affectionately term the affected others. But it's absolutely amazing what you went through. And as I said, I walked in Dan's footsteps myself many years ago, and it's always more powerful when you hear it from the side of the people it affected, because as we go through recovery like Dan has, you don't forget, but everything sort of fades into significance. But when we talk to people like you, it's amazing how you can still recall it, and the actual effect it has on you. It's just so powerful and really good for people to listen to what actually happens to the family and people we love.
I think it's, I mean, I think of it as an illness now, that I do. I know some people, there are other members of the family that don't understand, that don't see it, some people... And
sadly, Val, that's still going on today, not so much as it was in the days we're talking about, but the one thing we know for sure is gambling is a massive public health problem now. Sadly, too many people actually take their life through gambling, suicides. This definitely associated with gambling. But it's being accepted now, and gambling is just as alongside and runs alongside all the other addictions. And very sadly, gambling's actually got the highest rate of suicide and suicide ideation of all, of all. I think
it's sort of almost like, because it's like the hidden addiction.
Yeah, it's hidden, and I mean, you really saw that firsthand how hidden it is. All of a sudden, you get an email, and wow, where did that come from?
Because I think I will say that somebody that is a compulsive gambler, they are probably the best liars or deceivers that you would ever meet.
Absolutely,
they are able to manipulate any. They are.
To be a compulsive gambler, a problem gambler, to gamble problematically, you have to be a fantastic liar.
Yeah.
The two and two go hand in hand, because you have to keep all the balls juggling.
I don't know how.
It's robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's borrowing money. You saw firsthand through that email all the effects of what happened.
Absolutely.
Moving on from a very emotional story. It's great that we're sitting here and Dan's completely turned his life around now. How proud are you of that, considering where you were to where you are now?
I'm so proud. I never, ever thought we'd come to this. If I was speaking to you all them years ago, I could never envisage this. I mean, he did hit rock. You couldn't have got any lower. It was as low as you could get.
Yeah, I can hear that through the story you've told.
So I think it was... the only way was up from there.
So when he started going up, when did you start believing him? Because of all of what you'd gone beforehand, you obviously disbelieve everything because of all what happened. When did you start to sort of realise that he'd turned the corner and maybe start believing what he was saying?
It's hard. I think, that it's an old-fashioned saying, and I've said it before, but I think actions speak louder than any words. Yeah. And I can sort of, you judge by what the person is doing,
Yeah.
not by what they're saying. And because I saw him work hard and he put so much effort into it, I knew he was going to do that. He was going to gain his qualifications
one
and
thing
do
I
it.
can say how determined he is, because I will never forget how many times he came to see me in our office in Eastbourne, asking to have a placement, asking to get involved. And to be honest, I totally dismissed it. And in the early days when I heard about what he'd done, although a lot of people have done that, you think, oh, is he the right one for this? But he was so determined. He never stopped knocking on that door. And the way he's turned his life around and the help and support he offers to others now is second to none. And he's become such a main player for Break Even and helping other people. And I think without the support and the help he got from you and the family, that would never have happened, and there could have been even more severe consequences, as you've spoken about.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's turned his life around from really being at the lowest point you could ever be in your life.
It's still a painful memory. Thanks very much for sharing what you did.
I didn't expect it to affect me when I was speaking about it, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it just shows how raw this is still, and it's obviously been a very emotional, and I really thank you for everything you've said. To finish up with, I just want to ask you, what advice would you give to the loved ones of a gambler who might be going through similar things? Bearing in mind, we know there's a lot more help and support out there, but what advice would you give as a mother to someone who went through what you actually went through?
I think the main thing is to try not to keep going over the past. Try not to keep saying, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I notice this? Why didn't I do that? Try not to do that. And
so it's very important to stay in the moment.
That's exactly it. Try to take, we just took a few days at a time and try not to do, it's hard, but try not to go to the future and say, what if this happens? What if that happens?
Yeah.
What if this doesn't work out? Or what if he does it again? You can't control the future. That's what I keep telling myself now. You can't. You have to live in the moment now.
Yeah,
and you just have to deal with what you...
And, it's what these great expressions like you can't change the past, but you can influence the future.
You can.
As you're saying, one day at a time.
Absolutely.
And the good news is now is that for people that get in these situations, there is a lot more help and support out there. So let's hope anybody listening to your story reaches out to get the help and support they need.
That's great, because I also think even just I've noticed it more. It's more like prevalent in the news. You see young kids that are gambling. So because it's available on the phones, there's no checks. It feels like it's actually got worse, much worse.
Yeah, well, no other country normalises gambling like we do. And everywhere you go down certain high streets, there's more gambling venues than there are food shops. And
also the way because he went through where he tried to block, and they still keep coming. The way they're ruthless. They don't. All these little statements underneath. Take time to think. Take time. It's just put there for.
Absolutely, I totally hear that, Val. Once again, thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
If you or someone you know is affected by gambling-related harm, please call us on 01273 833 722 or visit our website www.breakeven.org.uk. Alternatively, please call the National Gambling Helpline on 0808 8020 133. Please ensure to like and subscribe to all our social media channels and keep this message out there. Thank you.